Yeah, there's like I said, there's a lot of ground to cover on this topic, but I really think we've brought in the right individuals for today's webinar to kind of guide us through it. So social and influencer marketing for live events. First, we have Michelle from the LA Kings, who will give us her perspective as it relates to working with brand ambassadors, as well as influencers for professional sports team. Second, we have Emily with C3 Presents promoting some big festivals like Austin City Limits, Bonnaroo, Lollapalooza, as we were just talking about. And she'll offer her point of view, from the festival space and how they approach, working with both ambassadors and influencers. And lastly, we have Ian, who, as an influencer, has been working with some of the largest brands in the world, and he'll give us his perspective as it relates to really kind of the relationship between influencer and brand partnerships as well. So to start, I thought each of you could give a little bit of an introduction, give a little background on yourselves, as well as share maybe just one really cool or favorite influencer campaign that you've either been a part of or have seen implemented outside of your own brand. So we'll start with Michelle, and we'll go to Emily, and then to Ian.
Sure. Hi, I'm Michelle. Currently with the LA Kings. Brand marketing is my specialty here. But before this, started my career with the Oakland A's. Was doing mostly photo and content with them. Moved to Cal Berkeley Athletics, where I oversaw social and digital, and now here with the Kings. So predominantly sports experience and background. And I think the influencer piece of it has grown each role I've been with, just as influencer marketing has grown itself. So excited to be here with you guys today. And then I think my favorite campaign that we've done that used influencers and celeb marketing as well is our rebrand launch that we did this past off season leading into this season. The Kings sort of retook a look at our jerseys and our marks and made them. We looked at our heritage marks and brought them sort of into the new century, right, and refreshed them. And the launch video and the full campaign was all centered around the influencers that we work with, the ambassador program that we'll talk about, and then celebs too. We've got Will Ferrell and Steve Carell as season ticket members, so we'd be remiss not to include them in these big things. But yeah, it was a fun one.
Cool.
Hi,
Thanks, Michelle.
everyone. I'm Emily Young from C3 Presents. I work on our festival marketing team here. I got my start in artist management based out of Nashville and then moved to Austin to work at C3 just about 10 years ago, and have been working on festival marketing ever since. And like Michelle mentioned, our influencer campaigns have definitely grown throughout the years, from micro influencers to more macro brand awareness-based influencers, as well as the referral program that we've launched with FEVO most recently. And one of my favorite influencer experiences was a few years ago, post-pandemic or pre-pandemic, sorry. I stumbled upon Brittany Broski in the crowd at ACL. She's just a fan of ACL, and that's when she was just Kombucha Girl. Got some content from her, and then through that, we formed a partnership with her promoting ACL every year, and she's become a big advocate for ACL and creating that brand awareness for the festival.
Sweet. Thanks, Emily.
What's up, guys? I'm Ian Eastwood. I'm a choreographer and director and just kind of all around creative person. I started on social media at the very dawn of social media. I made my YouTube account in 2006 when I was 12 years old, the year after YouTube started, and I've been online for the last 20 years, utilizing whatever social media platform exists to basically find some way to monetize my art and my craft. Dance is a strange medium in the sense that we have like no ownership of anything. So the only thing I could do is essentially use social media as a calling card to create work and opportunities for me to monetize in some sort of back end. So I was already traveling the world and teaching my choreography based off of the integrity of the craft itself for about 10 years before truly like a lot of brand ambassadorships and programs or just any brand deals at all started trickling their way down to what we now call influencers. And I was definitely in an early batch of this group demographic of people. And I've really watched a lot of brand deals come about, become more frequent, brand agencies, and all of these things kind of develop in a way for social media underneath my feet. And it's been really interesting to watch and see come around this way, especially having been someone that actually has really struggled to even keep my art online at all due to things like copyright and all this other stuff. But I would say probably my favorite thing that I've been involved in association to a brand has been the relationship I have currently with Sony. We're in the process of signing my second or third 12-month contract, which is something that when I started dancing, I never thought I would have any endorsement deal for anything longer than one-off individual opportunities. And I'm just really proud of this one because I was the very first person that they talked to about building this program out. And it's been cool to see how I got this opportunity from my work speaking for itself rather than them kind of just trying to fill in a blank with a lot of influencers. And so it's nice to know it's going a long way. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Ian.
Yeah.
Sweet. So yeah, talking through the agenda, I thought we'd start with really just a roundtable discussion, talking more broadly about influencer marketing with our panel, where each of the panelists can shed a little bit more light on how they approach kind of their strategy and running their own programs. And then we'll get into the weeds a little bit more with Michelle and the kind of fan ambassador program that she runs with the Kings, and with Emily, the referral initiative that was recently launched with Two Step In and FEVO's new social rewards program. So, and then after that, we'll open it up into some questions as well. So, yeah, to kick things off, I figured some people on this call are probably, just exploring utilizing either macro influencers or micro influencers, fan ambassadors for the first time. So, I thought would be really cool for us to kind of just talk through our approach with some of that. Michelle, as someone that, has been building these types of partnerships and campaigns for a while now, how do you as a sports team measure the success of influencers or ambassador programs, and what strategy, has worked best for you?
Totally. We use a platform called Amplify that our social and data team also use for social listening, post scheduling, and a bunch of things. But they've got sort of a creator and influencer piece to the equation. So we use that to track and analyze the effectiveness of our influencer campaigns. But I think something that we're always talking about internally, and even that I was talking with Ian about before this as well, is just the importance that like the data in this specific area won't tell the full story, right? And so making sure that we're pulling fan sentiment and feel and just like the gut piece of it as well, I think is really critical for influencer marketing. So it's not a perfect equation by any means, but it's something that we're always looking at and finding new ways to measure for sure.
Ian, kicking it to you for a second, like I'm actually curious if you can go into a little bit more about what you think maybe brands get wrong, when reaching out to influencers.
Yeah. So like personally speaking on this, I'm very passionate about this because I have an entire life and career because I was someone that is like truly what I think is like a representation of an internet kid. Like once I got access to the internet, I utilized it for its full potential in the way that like people who probably created the internet were hoping people would use the internet. Like I'm innocent in that way that I really love the opportunity to be able to find people that are like me, that really care about like craft and whatever they do, any community. I'm very interested in people who are very dedicated to craft in whatever their community may be, and seeing their process and understanding them. And the internet is the best place in the world for that, because people can all tell their story. So you get to learn about people who are really trendsetters and innovators in any community, because those people can inspire you to maybe, oh, I could duplicate this idea inside of my own community in dance, or inside of me and my friends' filmmaking community, or whatever it might be. So I had a lot of time, not only in my local community pre-internet, when people would just get their name up off of having a funky name and having a cool look and whatever that might be. That's influence in a way that I think the internet and the title of influencer has completely disconnected from what real influence is. And real influence is when someone sees something, it's undeniable that they feel they want to replicate that or live vicariously through that, or live in association to that thing. And so in early internet, it was just so clear that people would stand out, not based off of following, but based off their presence and how they impacted people like in real life. And so now I think the way people can cook numbers and the way algorithms work and all this stuff, I think that brands like kind of dissociated from someone who walks down the street and they might buy a product because they see it on someone's neck, or they see it like in their style or their fashion, just as much as they might, or maybe even more so than they might from clicking a link in someone's story. And some of these people who are the true influence, maybe even of the influencers originally, they're really getting looked over and passed over, which is the ultimate irony that crushes my heart, because they're just not necessarily set up or equipped based off their last viral video or their last 90 days of influence, when they might have decades of influence, of true influence on the ground, you know? So that's something that I am a very interesting breed, that I happen to have very valid receipts inside of my community. And I have enough social media following that I can usually kind of cross these two circles. Yep. But I'm spending most of my time advocating for people who are just completely getting looked over altogether, because it's just not being seen in a click through rate, you know?
Yep. Emily, I'm actually curious, like your perspective too, on just like how you all measure success as well when it comes to kind of like your bigger brand ambassadors, but also, you know, just like the fan to fan engagement as well.
Yeah, we're kind of working on a different timeline because we do want brand affinity, but our lineup changes every year. So we're on a condensed timeline of how we're marketing these shows. And so there are certain situations in which we're looking for influencers that are very buzzy at the moment, but may not have, you know, that historical past of developing a community. But for the longevity of our brands, we tend to focus on macro influencers that are either local to the city we are in, have been to the festival before, get those high engagement rates, and can like speak to the festival experience. Or on the more micro side, where they're doing, you know, the direct peer-to-peer engagement, whether it's through a referral link or, you know, just telling their friends and followers. But we kind of do the two-pronged approach by trying to hit both groups of people.
That's awesome. And Michelle, like to that point, I'm just curious, like when you're looking at a campaign, like when do you decide to go more with a macro influencer and engage with versus kind of the more micro ambassador fan to fan engagement?
Yeah, I think it's definitely campaign based, but in the same way that Emily does, I think for most we try to do both. We've got sort of like some always on, more brand centric things that are running, and bigger pictures and longer term deals like Ian talked about. We like to do a series of 3 or 4 engagement pieces with our bigger influencers. I think a good example might be right now we're promoting our K-Town night, which is this Sunday, which is a theme night here for the Kings. It's our first time doing it, right? So we wanted to make sure that we were really tapped into the community. So paired it with an ambassador who's a smaller scale influencer, right? But can still speak authentically to the Kings fandom experience. And a lot of Kings fans follow that person, right? And then also reached out to some K-Town bigger name influencers to reach that K-Town audience who maybe have been to one Kings game or maybe none at all. So I think it's so dependent on who we're trying to speak to, and then just making sure that we're choosing the right people or person to get into that audience and on their screen in front of them.
Yeah, it's great. And Ian, just a question for you. Just interested, like how you determine, which brand opportunities just align with,
Yeah.
your brand and audience.
Yeah. Well, like I said, like for me, it's this whole lifestyle of doing brand endorsements basically as my full-time or main job is new. It's really come along in the last 5 years. It's gotten much more serious and much more like legitimate for sure, in particular in the last 3 years. And for me and my manager, we basically I know that because I'm an influence in general, I'm promoting things and not getting paid, to be honest, because I'm a loyalist. As like dancers are very we're very about like luck, kind of like patterns and habits, and like, the way a batter will have a routine when they come up to the plate. We're very kind of superstitious in a lot of ways. And so like if I have products or things that I use, I'm a loyalist to that product. So as time started going by, we started realizing I need to start making note of the brands that I use naturally, because that's a natural partnership. And sometimes they may or may not know someone like me might be interested in their product or uses their product as heavily as I do, or that my demographic of type of person uses their product for a specific reason that they might not be aware of. So we kind of basically just get together a list of brands that I really genuinely use, and don't feel like I'm pitching or selling as someone online because it's more authentic to me. And we usually try to reach out. And then some brands come to us really organically. And again, it's kind of like if it hits a category of something I really use, it may be a competitor, but it's still in alignment with a product that I use. Like, that's where we start to consider it and kind of go back and forth. But definitely as an influencer, I'll always note that like any brand that has respect, integrity, or quality, you're like the influencer is going to take that more seriously, in general. I've had a bunch of tech companies reach out, but I'm going to take Sony really seriously. It's Sony, you know what I mean? So it's brand weight, I guess, and brand recognition, general global brand recognition, definitely for that side of negotiation has weight with the influencers for sure. Consider it.
I love that. That's something we're thinking about too, right? Is how can the Kings be the Sony of the NHL, right? Like
Correct.
how can we make sure that each touch point we're having with these creators and influencers is best in class and shows us as the gold standard. We love when we see folks just organically making content and then can reach out to them and partner with them in that way, instead of, we still do it the other way too, right? Of reaching out to people that we think will help fit a campaign. But if they're already doing it on their own, we know that it'll be, they're, to Ian's point, going to post about it 10 times more than contracted, because they actually care and love the hoodie that we give them and love the brand, right?
And the secret to that, as someone that's been obsessed with things on the internet and always looking for cool little things that I can find that's like pop cultural or whatever, that I think brands miss out on all the time, is this phrase right now that everybody says is lore, right? Is the lore, the history, right? The more brands lean into the lore, that's something that is not commercial or hasn't been promoted as commercial within the brand, but then it's flipped and used as commercial, is something that connects with people every single time. Like a prime example is like this shoe brand, PF Flyers. I was looking to find like a silhouette to wear that it looks like an expensive Chuck, because I'm a dancer. I'm always trying to find a silhouette so I can look the same every time, like a uniform. And I wanted to find like a Chuck-like silhouette that I could wear that was more heightened or expensive. So I was like, I should look for some PF Flyers. And they just recently came back as a brand. And they made a shoe that's called the Sandlot or something like that. And it's the same colors from the PF Flyers and the Sandlot. And for me as a consumer, I only know about PF Flyers because of the Sandlot. So the fact that the brand is recognizing that, leaning into it, and making it a thing makes me automatically as a consumer go, whoa, okay, they're making a Sandlot shoe. They know what's going on. They're not just trying to be like, no, that's not our movie. We don't have the rights. They just took the time and got it right. And it's like SB Dunks with Nike is the same thing. They like make things that for skaters or for people that are nerds of culture, they go, wow, that's really cool. I really like, I want to invest into that. That's thoughtful. And I think that that's something that brands miss out on all the time. They try and get too corporate of like being like, that's not the ultimate exact logo with the approved and it just like for a fan or someone that just likes it because they like it kills their interest, you know. So anyway, I could go on about that forever, but that's just a thought.
Cool. Thanks, Ian. I'm actually curious, Emily and Michelle, just to get your input, because I think a lot of people would want to get more information on this, on how you approach this part of the business. And it's about like the reward and the incentive, right? So how you look at that differently for, you know, your macro influencer versus your micro, more of your fan. Like, how do you look at that? And what have you done in the past when it comes to incentives, rewards, experiences, what have you, when it comes to those partnerships?
Yeah, I think from a macro standpoint, like we approach each influencer on a case by case basis. They obviously have their fees for how many followers they have and things like that. But we want our like main priority is that they come to the festival and actually experience it. So we want them to promote around the lineup announce, but we also want that content from them on site and showing their experience and their point of view. So it's important for us to kind of present a full circle package to them that includes that experience and, you know, whatever golf cart rides or access they need on site to make it the best weekend ever. And then in terms of more like micro influencers or like a referral based program, our incentives so far have been pretty straightforward. Our owner, Charlie Walker, kind of wanted to do the sell a ticket, get a beer model. And so our current strategy is just loading festival cash onto the wristband for every ticket they sell, which they can then put to use on site for food, beverage, merch, and it kind of puts that money back into the festival and it's trapped in, you know, the festival ecosystem, which is great, and guarantees that they're going to come to site and have a great experience as well.
Cool.
Ours is not as much in the like affiliate world. We try to do as much trade as possible just with sports budgets, which are fun. So I think we take it case by case and we try to make sure that on any given night for a game, we're hosting between, I don't know, 10 to 60 influencers and celebs. So we try really hard to make sure that each of those creators has a unique experience and that we're creating like bespoke opportunities for each of them. We've got these big moments like our drum moment to kick off the game and our puck drop and things like that. But what are, and Zamboni rides that everybody loves, right? But what are the smaller things? Like, can we just take them for a quick backstage tour? Like, can we bring them a beer? Can we bring them a Wetzel's Pretzels, which is one of our partners, right? Like, what are the smaller things that we can do along the way that like incentivize in a non-traditional way? In addition to, of course, tickets, VIP parking, scaled merch, depending on influence, things like that. So I think it's for ambassador program, it's more structured, right? And they know what they're getting and it's contracted. But for most of the folks that we host on game days, it's case by case and it's us just pushing ourselves to make sure that we're thinking about what they would appreciate and what would make them have a great game day experience.
Awesome. Yeah, Michelle, I got a little echo here. I don't know. Can you guys hear that?
Good now.
No.
All right, cool. If you could maybe just go into a little bit more detail with the ambassador program that you are building. I love what you were kind of talking about with, your theme night, your heritage night. That just makes a ton of sense to get people in that community to start posting about it, right? Would love if you can maybe just talk through how that's evolved, like where you started and what that looks like today. And again, just speaking to someone that may be considering doing something like that, what you'd recommend there.
Yeah, I think so I've been with the Kings 3 seasons now. And when I got here, we were doing more, it's LA, right? We've got these big names and flashy names, and that's really cool, right? And we still want to show our A-list talent, but I think we weren't doing as much in the influencer creator outreach space. If we got inbound, we would consider it, right? And go from there. So really tried to take a more proactive approach. And I think the main objective for us really was creating that user generated content and getting more community members speaking sort of on our behalf with our approval lightly. So last year we launched our ambassador program, and it was sort of a trial run. I think we ended up with like 7 or 8 ambassadors in the class. It was just the second half of the year. And so we were like, okay, how's this going to work? I called a couple other teams that I thought were doing it well and leagues that were doing it well. And so we set up a model to do. They got tickets to 3 games. They got welcome experience and merch and all that good stuff. And then they had to post, I think it was 3 in feed and 6 stories or something like that, right? So, and each of those, then we could see what we should pair them with and what they wanted to be paired with, right? To that theme night piece that we were speaking about, right? We've got our Mexican Heritage Night coming up. We're looking for an ambassador that fits in that space and that can speak authentically there, right? We've got our Pride Night coming up, et cetera, et cetera. So trying to make sure that we had someone in each of these buckets that is like our target growth audience that we're leaning into was a big piece for us as well. So yeah, that was year 1. And then this year for year 2, we've got 15 ambassadors. So wanted to scale it a little bit, but still keep it manageable so that we can have daily interaction with these folks. And we really view them as like an extension of our marketing team. When we're sitting in a meeting thinking, okay, we've got X campaign for our hockey development team wanting to grow ball hockey in the space, right? A consideration set is always, is there an ambassador that makes sense for this campaign that can come out to the ball hockey event, help make some content for us, for their channels, for our channels, etc. So we've grown it a little bit on like more trade on our end. We're pushing more. We did like a sweet night experience with custom jerseys. We took them all down for tunnel team so they could high five the team as they took the ice, right? So just creating better opportunities for them to make content and growing from there, and then tracking it all on the back end through Amplify, our partner in that space. They have an area in the platform that you can opt in, and so it's not something that we do for most of our guests that we have out to games, but for those that we know are repeating, we'll have them opt in and set up profiles within the platform so that we have access to all of their back-end data, which is really helpful to show the impactfulness of the program overall, and then of their effectiveness for each campaign that we're tying them to as well.
Yeah, that's great. Let's jump to the next slide. And Emily, if you talked a little bit about specifically, how you guys came to this referral program for two-step in. Wanted to see like, well, first, just, if you can kind of just reiterate, what your ultimate goal was with this particular campaign, kind of who you imagine the target audience being. Was it, purely a play to just see, hey, is there someone of an existing buyer that can bring out a handful of more people? Or did you see this kind of opening up into, someone really being someone that could bring out, hundreds of people to that particular event? Would love to kind of hear from you on, what your goals were here and kind of where you also kind of see C3 taking, something like this.
Yeah, definitely. So like I mentioned before, on all of our festivals, including Two Step In, we work with, regional or larger influencers that definitely have the ability to create that brand affinity, but they're not necessarily directly getting people to buy tickets. They may be creating, favorable sentiment towards our festivals, but it's not that direct ticket sale that we're sometimes looking for. And so with this initiative specifically, we were looking for more of that like one-to-one influence that ticket buyers are inclined to have. It came from the idea that we wanted to have a program, sell a ticket, get a beer, and basically looking at our digital advertising costs and what our CPAs were at, and could we match that or pay people at a lower rate than that to sell a ticket on our behalf. And so we looked at this program as friends influencing their friends to buy tickets, not necessarily on a larger scale, but more like you're the friend in the group that has the influence, you make the plans, like you're going to send out this link with the lineup poster and be like, let's go to two-step in. And so that was the thought behind this. And then, like I mentioned, loading up their wristbands with $20 for each ticket that they sold. So they have an incentive, to go on site, experience the festival with their friends and have a great weekend. And so we were looking at more on the smaller scale, but with a lot of referrals, referring to their groups instead of, one big influencer influencing in a smaller way across their network. And so we're currently in the middle of it for Two-Step In. We're going to be on site at the festival in 2 weeks and kind of see how it plays out on site. But the plan is to scale this for our other festivals that have more of that group mentality. Two-Step In is a country show, so it's not inherently like a street teaming or like group rewards mindset. But we're thinking for a festival like Bonnaroo or Governor's Ball in New York, where it's a younger audience, tapping into those markets where they're chronically online and getting them to do some of that like digital street teaming, we would call it.
Yeah, that's great. And what, just to kind of talk through a little bit on kind of the feature that is new for FEVO, because I think this is something that's really unique and cool. And certainly what C3 was looking to do was retarget all of their existing buyers after the on sale and give them a platform to register without having to make a purchase on FEVO, but then being able to have a back end and dashboard to track sales towards whatever the reward is. And I think that's really cool because the platform could be used where the reward could be set for, someone buying a ticket on FEVO and automatically enrolling into that program. And, or, it could be something more gated where it has to be an existing buyer and then they're getting the reward for sharing as well. And so that really opens up the door for how the platform could be used because you can essentially look to utilize it for your influencer. You can create a different subset of rewards for someone that you may work with on a brand ambassador type of program where it's like, hey, here's a link, and we'll also, in addition to whatever our partnership is, give you credit towards sales that come from your unique link, right? Or it can also be used for that true fan-to-fan referral marketing as well. And there can be a different subset of rewards targeted to those individuals. So there's just a lot of layers to the feature that, we're rolling out where you can create, rewards based around experiences. It can be, through tickets. It can be, merch credit, food and bev credit, whatever you want to create, depending on who you're targeting there. There's a lot that you can do. Emily, I don't know if you can just touch on a little bit more on different types of rewards that you might consider. Do you feel like the credit towards, that they can spend inside the event is, definitely what you guys are looking to do, or are you exploring other types of rewards and experiences? Would love to hear more on like how you guys are, again, thinking about kind of rewards and incentives for a program like that.
Yeah, right now our plan is to keep it pretty simple with the Fest Cash on the wristband, just because it can get you food, merch, beverages on site, which kind of covers your festival experience. I do think there is an opportunity with some of our other festivals like Bonnaroo that I mentioned, which is a camping festival, to add additional incentives, whether that be a camping upgrade or shower tokens or, some sort of additional experience that they may not have access to.
Yep. Yeah, it's great. And what's really cool, with FEVO is you can start to learn, who those organic influencers are, right? Because you have that back end to start seeing who's sharing with who. And you can start to learn like, hey, who are those organic influencers that are able to bring 10, 20, 30 people out to the event? And you can retarget them for other types of opportunities or influencer programs based around just like what you're seeing kind of organically through some of those share links as well. If anyone wants to learn more about that feature when it comes to rewards and incentives, we do have a lunch and learn on Friday. The link was just posted in the chat as well. So, there's going to be more information that we're planning to share for that lunch and learn as well. And please feel free to jump in with any questions. I got some to start, but post any questions that you guys have in the chat. For all the panelists, open discussion. What's one piece of advice that you'd give brands looking to start an influencer or ambassador program?
I think one thing that we found that was super helpful for us last year, I think TikTok referred to it as interest mapping. But we market across a variety of different festival brands, and they encouraged us with our content to consider interest mapping, which is basically working with influencers or content creators that are in different categories or niches or different pockets of fandoms or, different interest groups on the internet. And so for our festivals, we're not just working with music creators, we're working with fashion creators, food creators, comedy creators, dance creators. And so trying to make sure we are reaching people wherever they are and whatever their kind of corner of the internet is.
I love that. I think mine would be keeping it the relationship the priority as you approach these. And I think doing what Emily said is a key piece of that, right? Finding areas that they authentically want to speak about, right? Like letting them be fashion influencers at the festival, et cetera, et cetera. And then I think not stifling their creativity. I think that we as brands and teams, right, have our very clear objectives and CTAs and all of these things, but letting them come to us with ideas has been really successful, and is something that we try to keep alive so that they don't feel like they're doing a ticketing push for us. They feel like they're talking to their friends about the Kings in a way that they actually would want to and feels authentic to them.
Ian, you're on mute there.
Sorry, my bad. Kind of just piggybacking off that for me is like if an influencer that you're trying to work with is like really genuinely excited about something, let them be excited about that, even if it may push against what has been internally like cited as the brand's values or the brand's priorities or whatever. Like I can't tell you the amount of times where like maybe it's a food product and they're like, well, we don't want you to say that it's when you were struggling and it was really there for you because it makes it feel like it's a cheap product, or we don't want you to touch the hat that way because then people think that it's like lowering like the way that people perceive this product. And it's just not true. It's like, but that was my experience with your product. And I really loved that experience. So let me talk about that because a lot of people have my experience, not what the brand is kind of trying to force people to have. Sometimes that's just like trying to control your own, your own market, which is a little bit strange because if people are buying it, they're buying it, and like reading some like books on some famous artists and things with art, it's like when you make art, it's supposed to just be done and it's for people to experience, and whatever their experience is, even if they interpret what you're saying or doing with the art in a different way, or if it's wrong, it's still that person's experience for them. And it still has value regardless if that was your intention or not. So I think, yeah, just letting people who are really excited be excited, because that's going to come across and be the best ad that you can have because it's genuine.
That's great. And yeah, and unless there's any other questions, we'll kind of leave it with this one final question again for each of you, because I think this is really interesting to just look into the future. How would you see influencer marketing evolve for live events in the next few years? Just given your current experience. Emily, we'll start with you.
I'm currently seeing it evolve this way, like on the back end. So, we're starting to see the need for larger sponsors, bigger companies to affiliate themselves with both like a cool influencer and a cool event. And so it's kind of like a three-way deal that we're starting to see on our end where brands are wanting to tie themselves to these big moments happening at festivals through the eyes of an influencer. So we're starting to do more and more promotions that way, where it's a lot more subtle on the brand side, and a lot more content and event forward.
I think for me, it would be, we're most likely next year gonna dip into the like affiliate space. And so I think it's somewhere that it's in space that sports has been a little bit slower to. But I think it's necessary to show value to the creators in that way, right? And more than trade sometimes, and more than one-off deals, right? So I think it will create more sustainability and long-term relationships. So yeah, I think that would be my answer.
I think for me, this is kind of like more of like a societal kind of like where things are going with social media in general and how they link into in-person things, is that with all the streaming, like live streaming and everything happening, and this influencer role being less associated to like people who do craft specifically and more about people who are like literally living their entire life via the internet as kind of an experiment thing. I think that there's going to be a lot more social interaction with those people in real life. And because a lot of these streamers and people don't necessarily have a craft to anchor them into a show or whatever it might be, because they don't have a like necessarily a specific talent that they're leaning on. I think things like live events and stuff like that, it will become very casual that people can feel like they're going to run into a Kai Cenat at this exact time, at this exact booth, and then they'll catch him later at wherever he's going to go eat. And like I think people that are influencers will really start living their life like fully publicly in a way that they'll be like accessible in a way that's not weird. And they like a kid could just be getting off from school and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to go to this meet and greet, da da da. But they're not meet and greets. They're just like the person's schedule. It's like a weird thing that I see happening. But there's no infrastructure for it right now. So I think stuff like this is really interesting because it can give, like, I didn't have a way to connect with people until applications and social media platforms started to exist. And then I could use it and figure out how I use it as a teenager or whatever. So these kids are going to be figuring out new ways to use these platforms in ways that's probably the creators and like people that are making it happen technologically aren't even aware of that they're going to utilize it for yet.
Yeah, that's great. Amazing. And if, again, if anyone wants to just learn more about, the FEVO platform and what we've built on, this new feature for influencers and for ambassadors can help track results when it comes to, ticket sales as well. I think what's really cool is the influencer themselves gets the ability to track. They get a dashboard to see even site visits, people buying, where they're tracking towards a reward. Then you guys also get that data on the back end. Again, could be used for, fan to fan ambassadors or influencers as well. So for anyone of you on the call that, work with FEVO today, reach out to your partner success rep to learn more. We also have the lunch and learn on Friday. And I think that's it. Thank you, Emily, Michelle, Ian. This was a fantastic conversation. I really appreciate your time. And I'm sure we'll do this again soon.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank
you.
you.